Are you ready? Oh my God, here we are.
I know.
I think for me, this has been so long in the making because I've had this vision of what this project can be,
100%.
like what the end goal is.
Yeah.
That now we're finally here and we have each other to do it together. It feels so surreal.
Yes.
Like to see your vision come to life and all the ideas that we've had since we've met and started working on this. It is insane that today is the day we get things kicked off.
I know. I'm nervous, but I'm happy at the same time. I'm nervous because of the journey, really. I'm not nervous about backlash and stuff because backlash is better than no backlash, really. If you think about it, it will help us improve. It will teach us. It will educate us. So I'm excited about that part, and I'm mostly excited the fact that I've got someone like a sister, to do this. So yeah, exactly.
So with that said, who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? I feel like Cilla Black.
So my name's Leonarda or Leonarda, but everyone calls me Leo or Lejla, which is something we found really funny. I'm 30 years old, live in North London, raised in Harrow, and I come from Kosovo, Pristina.
Perfect. How long have you been in England, London for?
I've been here 25 years. I came here when I was 5, like an immigrant, like most people, in a baccalaureate. I can laugh about it now.
Yeah, but it's not funny, ha. It's not funny, ha, is it? It's funny because when we share our stories, we think to us it's really normal because it was for our people. It was
exactly
that's just what you did. Like you do or die. It was pure survival. But we forget that that's not the norm for other people to just get on the back of the lorry and then migrate to another country. And that's part of like why we're doing this as well. But before we go into it, I'm Lejla. I'm Lejla Dauti. I'm 35 years old. I was born in Kosovo. I'm from Gilan. I'm an ex-asylum seeker now. Came to the UK when I was 6 in 1995. Grew up in West London on a council estate. We should actually tell them what the podcast is called before. I'm so excited about it. I've just got so much to say. So this podcast and project, we decided to name it Trime.
Yeah.
Which in English translate to brave, bravery, courage. And there's a big reason behind why we called it Trimes, because a lot of the time when there's women like us in our culture who are ready to, really stand up for ourselves and be independent, a lot of the time people will turn around to us and be like, yeah, Trimnish.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're so brave. And actually, being independent in our culture shouldn't just be seen as an act of bravery. It should just be seen as a standard thing for women.
It's basic.
Yeah, it's a basic right? Yeah. And it should just be so basic that all women have that independence and that freedom. But unfortunately, even though like we are in 2024, that's not the reality for women in our culture. And we both felt like from our own lived experiences, it was only right to come forward and start sharing our own stories with the hopes that other Albanian women come forward and share their experiences as well, so that we can kind of start breaking down those stereotypes and those taboos and really tackle that gender-based violence towards women and girls in our culture, because we know that's a massive issue. It's actually a real danger for women. Like women in our culture end up dying because of violent misogynistic practices, and we're really passionate about breaking those taboos down.
100%. I am on the same level with Lejla. We decided to call it Trime because most of our mums are Trimresha, which, and it's not in a positive light that they are Trimresha. It's because they've had to put their head down, close their mouth, and listen to the misogynistic men in that family and not really have a say or an opinion about anything, which, includes a say with kids, a say in their house, a say in inheritance, a say in their jobs and their careers, giving up careers for that family life, and not something that they want to do, or just give up their personality as a whole. In our culture, marriage is seen as that's it. Like when you get married,
pinnacle, like it's like the pinnacle goal for women in our culture. It's like the only thing that women are allowed to achieve, and a lot of the time it's the only thing that women do look forward to because they want to get out of their homes.
Exactly,
and they feel like maybe getting married and going to their husband's home is a sense of freedom.
Exactly, and it's unfortunate to say it's not always the case, that it's better in your husband's home, because there is a lot of violence that also happens in in-laws, which is not really talked about in the Albanian community. It's almost seen as completely normal, and you have to give up your life for your in-laws.
Yeah, and when I explain, like when I explain to like my English friends about like so-called honor-based abuse and violence, and that women in our culture are subjected to it and they become victims of it, they're always like, really? I didn't think that, because I think a lot of the time there's this stereotype that honor-based violence and abuse is just prevalent in South Asian communities, and that's not true at all. Like women in our communities have been victims of honor-based abuse and violence for the longest time, like for as long as I know. I've been victim of it myself, and so it's really important to bring those matters into it and to have those really open discussions. And I think a lot of women in our community, in our culture, whether it's here in the UK, whether it's abroad in America or in Europe or back home, they don't have that freedom or those safe spaces to come forward and talk. And thankfully for me and you, and it shouldn't be thankfully, it's not about being fortunate that we have this freedom in our own lives, because again, that should be a standard of all women, but we have that freedom to come forward and that safety to come forward and share our stories, share our lives, and discuss these topics that really affect women in our community, with hopes of creating this safe space, so that women can feel like they are seen, they are heard, they're validated, and if they ever are subjected to those forms of gender-based violence in our community, they have a safe place to go to, which is Trime.
Exactly. Just to add on to your point, the whole point of Trime is really for a young woman to just have somewhere where they can log on, get on the podcast, listen to me and you, and feel validated in what they're feeling with what we're saying, and providing resources and tools to help them get out of a situation which they're unhappy to be in.
Absolutely.
Because most women are always like, well, this is just how life should be. It's not. It really isn't. It isn't. Your life does not end with your kids. Your life does not end because you're married and now you have to listen to every word that comes out of your husband that's made out of gold.
Yeah, literally.
Because, we all know that men in our community are, made out of gold.
Oh my God, the centre of everything.
It doesn't end there at all. And where I say fortunate, but me and Lejla have fought
really so hard. Yeah, like literally we've risked our lives and for this freedom that we have. And this space, this project, this podcast, everything that we have planned to do with Trime is actually born off our own experiences, of our own lived 100%. Experiences, and both of our stories are different but kind of similar, and they're both so important. So like, for example, the reason why I wanted to create this project and why I know that it's so needed is because of my own lived experience. So growing up in a household where domestic abuse was prevalent, and it was not a nice way to grow up, but I thought it was normal because I saw all of the other families, like Kosovo and Albanian families, were the same. So I thought it was normal until I started going to my English friends' houses, and like they would talk and joke with their dads, and I'd be like,
you would never do
what
that.
What is going on here? You talk to your dad?
You would never do that. You would never do that.
You wouldn't, would you? And then growing up, I know like in my, I'd say like late teens, when I was about 15, 16, I always like questioned whether I was gay or not, because I used to fancy the girls at school. And obviously I knew that for us, like being gay was just, it's such a big no-no, like absolutely not. Like, so with that fear in mind, I just thought, no, I can't. And I never, ever explored it up until my 30s. And then I went on to date men, and in my early 20s I met a man and I had a child with a man from outside of our culture, and I knew that meant that I was either going to be subjected to a form of abuse or violence, and that I would be outcasted. I knew I was going to be outcasted as like the bare minimum standard, but then I didn't know what forms of abuse and violence would follow that. And it was the most single-handedly terrifying times of my life. Like being pregnant and being outcasted from my home, from the community, was so lonely. And I really didn't know what to do with myself. Like there was, at that time, so that was 10 years ago 11 years ago actually, when I was pregnant. there was nowhere for me to find other Kosovan women who were like me, who had married outside the culture, who had children outside the culture, and it just wasn't safe.
Yeah.
Like I had no communication with anyone in my family. Like all of that, I guess that comfort that I felt from my family all of a sudden was just gone and ripped up from underneath me. And there was a lot of like emotional abuse that followed me being pregnant as well. And alongside that, I was in a relationship. The man that I was with was a perpetrator of domestic abuse. I had no way out.
Yeah.
I had no way. Where was I going to go? Like I had now been isolated completely from my family. And now I felt like I was stuck in this relationship with a perpetrator. There was zero safety in my life. And that has been the majority of my life. And now I'm 35. And for the past 5 years, I've been building like safe spaces for women to come forward and to really feel seen and heard. And now I have this freedom and this safety to give that to other women, because I hate the thought of another Kosovan Albanian woman being out there completely alone now. When I started sharing my life online on Instagram and started sharing my life with my daughter, I had so many women come forward and they were like, oh my God, like I didn't think that there was another Kosovan or Albanian woman out there who has mixed race children.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd get flooded in the DMs from so many women like asking me like, what did you do? Like, how was it for you when you told your parents? And you want to give like a really positive like feedback to them, but I couldn't. I had this really horrible, abusive feedback to give back, and I had no hope to give them. But now I do have hope.
Yeah.
Now my story, even though there was no hope for me, there is hope for me now because I created this whole new freedom and life for myself. And I got to the point, which is, I know that me and you are so like similar on this, where we've got to that age now where we're like, we are no longer the young ones like we're no longer the young girls. We are now the Harlows, the Tearses, like, do you know what I mean? Like we're the elders now, and it just only feels right to really give back to the community and to create those safe spaces.
100%. And something that you said to me when we first spoke, by the way, we've only known each other for less than a month.
You would never know. You would never know, because we literally like we talk every day now,
we do,
all day, every day, as if like we've been besties.
And if we don't speak, I feel like I'm missing half of myself.
Missing something.
But I've been following Lejla for a long time. I've been following you for a lot since you came out.
It's
with
been like
your
4
stories.
years now. Yeah, 4 years.
4 years. And I saw you and I just found you so inspiring. And then I remember you did a post about PCOS. I remember this clear as day because I do have PCOS. And I sent you a message, and then I exchanged 2-3 messages, and then you, this is so funny. We're just exposing ourselves. But you sent me a message on TikTok, and the first thing I said to you was, don't play with me.
Yeah. I was like,
this
what
is
do you
a
mean?
scam account.
Yeah, that was so weird, because when I was thinking about this project, I was like, I know this is going to happen. I had this vision. I needed to make it come to light, but I thought, how am I going to bring this to life? Because I know a lot of Albanian women are not going to have that freedom to come forward. I know a lot of Albanian women are not like me.
Exactly.
And I get it. And that's okay. That's why we're creating this, so that Albanian women can feel empowered to do whatever it is they want to do, as long as they're safe in life, right? So I've had this idea for the longest time in my head. And then I went to Kosovo with my daughter in June, and this like massive soul searching holiday, because I've always had this really complicated relationship with my identity, with my heritage, because I've experienced so much abuse because of the person that I am.
Yeah.
So much abuse from men and women in our culture, just because of who I am. But I love being Kosovan.
Yeah.
I love who
we
I
are
love.
patriots.
Like I'm really patriotic. And so that's always been a bit complex and complicated for me. And I knew that part of my healing journey was, I knew I needed to go back home.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to have that kind of healing, like soul searching experience. So I went back home in June with Bella, and I get so emotional about it because it exceeded my expectations were on the floor. Like I thought I was going to go and people were going to spit on me.
No.
Like honestly, because
I feel my heart breaks for you because of that thought. Because it's, when I go Kosovo, because you're going to make me emotional, when I go Kosovo, I have to act like a different person. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm here, I have to act like a different person. And then when I'm at home, I act like myself because I've got such an amazing husband. So I cannot be myself at home. I have to be I have to, and this is why I don't have a lot of strong relationships with family, because I just don't agree with their misogynistic views, and I'm not someone to sit there and
keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, keep my mouth shut. No, like, I've been told to get out of a room when the men were talking, and husmet and all of that. I don't do husmet, not because of disrespect or whatever, but why should I? I'm not your mum. And Absolutely. I'm not your servant. Yeah. If you're going to pay me, I'll do it. But if you're not going to pay me, then please leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Because from my own experience, and I say my own experience, but I know that this is the experience of a lot of women, not just our generation, but younger. Like, I see it, I witness it. Like, we're just treated as if, like, that's it. We're just there to serve men, and the men are the center of everything. And that's not true.
Exactly.
Like, we're so much more than that. We're not just these one-dimensional beings. All we're good for is to get married and bear children and then look after the kids in the home for the rest of our lives.
100%.
Like, do you know what I mean? That's not all we're good for. There's so many incredible, amazing things. Like, Albanian women are amazing. From the beginning of time, we have been trime. Like, from the beginning of time, we have been leaders. From the beginning of time, we've been entrepreneurs. We've been, and we don't get the chance to explore that because we're constantly beaten down by this violent, misogynistic practices that we do have in our culture. And it's no longer about, like, should women get the chance to do this? No, we've been doing this. It's actually now just about creating those safe spaces for women to come forward and be like, I have been doing this, and I deserve to be in this space. I deserve to take up this space. And what I felt when I went back home in June was, I was blown away. Like, the infrastructure changed so much. Like, it's come so forward. And I get it. When I was talking to my cousins back home, they were like, do you really think so? And I get it. When you live there, it doesn't look like there's been a lot of progress. But when I went in June, I was like, wow. Like, I thought I was in Turkey or Egypt or something. Like, I was blown away. And I can see the mentality is changing as well. And I think a lot of the Western tourism that's coming in now into the country, I think it's having a really positive impact, because
100%.
in order for our country to move forward and to progress and to develop, your mentality has to progress as well, because you're going to get tourists that think very differently to you.
Exactly.
And it's okay for people to have different lifestyles. It's not okay for you to treat people differently because they have a different lifestyle.
Exactly.
It's not okay. It's not okay for you to be violent and abusive towards other people because they have a different lifestyle. And I'm glad, to me, it was really clear that this tourism that's slowly filtering through into Kosovo is having a really positive impact. And I was talking to, like, the waiters, the taxi drivers, they were all just echoing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time when I was there, they'd immediately talk to me in English, and then I talk back in Shqip, and they'd be like, mfal, pasha zotin mfal.
Yeah, because they get used to it. They where they see you speaking English, and we've got such thick accents in English, you would never guess that we are bilingual and our mother tongue is actually Albanian. But I go pretty much every single year because my husband's family is in Kosovo. Sometimes he'll go by himself, and sometimes I go with him because you are stuck with me.
With me forever.
You're not going anywhere. I'm not giving you a chance. But each time we go, and this is interesting because I come from a traditional family on both sides. Both of my sides of my family, my mum's side and my dad's side and my husband's side, are all very, very traditional. So for me, when I go out in Pristina, like Shesh, the main strip, it's nice and it's so refreshing to see girls dressing up however they want to, doing whatever they want. And even on social media and professionally, you see Albanian girls doing so well.
Killing it.
So well, and not letting any man say whatever, anything to them, and not letting any man stop them. And that's what makes me happy. But what makes me sad at the same time is girls in my own family where they only look forward to marriage and getting some gold and having that nice wedding and then having a child straight after, because for them they have to go to their husband's family, they have to serve their husband's family for the rest of their life, and then they have to make babies, and they have to raise those babies, and then by the time you're 50 years old and your whole body hurts, and that's when you get a chance to live your own life.
What life is there to live?
There is no life to live. There isn't, because that's the first time you actually get to know. That's the first time you actually get to know your husband.
Yeah.
Really well.
Isn't that crazy when you think of it like that? That's the first time you get to know yourself and the person that you've been living with forever. Since you've been married.
I can say it because I see it in my own mum. You know, I'm the oldest of 5, so I've got oldest daughter syndrome, hands down. We both do.
I think maybe a lot of women who are going to listen to this are going to be able to relate that. So we're both the eldest and eldest daughters. I'm the only girl as well.
Yeah.
And I think we both definitely were very much thrown into the fire.
100%. We were thrown into the fire. We were expected to clean, cook, help our mum, you know, help all the siblings. To give you a bit of perspective, my mum, she had to do a lot of hizmet for a lot of guests, a lot of musafir that would come to the house, and my dad would work day and night to make a living. You know, you are a asylum seeker, you've got no other choice. You've got 5 kids to feed, you have to work, and he was the only breadwinner in the whole family until we all grew up and started working. But cooking, cleaning, taking the kids to school, picking them up, helping them with their homework, because my parents don't read and write English to this day. They will speak it, but they don't read and write it. And helping them with the legal documents, with council documents, and then meeting up with our accountant. And you know, you get to a point, I'm now 30 years old, and now I'm getting the pressure of when you're having kids, and I say to people, I've already had 4. I've had 4 kids that I've had to raise with my mum. A lot of people will say, yeah, but you know, you had to help your mum. Yes, and I would do it over again because she's my mum. But at the same time, now as the oldest child, my siblings that didn't have to do my job are the ones having kids, and me that I've had to do their job. I am tired. I'm psychologically tired. I don't have space in my brain.
No capacity. It's like I think a lot of the time the women in our culture have to give up almost every single part of themselves, every single part of themselves, and it shouldn't be that way. Like, we should be living in safe freedom.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be like, oh, if I break away from my family and live independently, women shouldn't then worry about what the consequences of that are. They should just be able to do that in peace. And I know that when I moved out of like my family home, well, actually my first time moving out of the family home was when I went to university. It was the first time I ever had freedom. I went wild. Like, I'm not gonna lie. My first year, because I never had freedom. I wasn't even allowed out past dark.
I wasn't allowed to the corner shop.
And
it was like daytime.
My friends would be going out like to Pizza Hut. At 7 o'clock during the winter time. I wasn't allowed out after 4 o'clock. And so when I went to uni, that's just to paint a picture. So when I went to uni at the age of 18, I was like, oh my God, is this what it's like? And I just went wild. I never had that safe relationship with my parents. To be able to explore things, you know. I never had that safe relationship with my parents for them to give me good advice. It was always the advice I always got was that my whole life solely depended on getting a university degree and then getting married to a Kosovan man. That was it. And it was like I was only loved on those conditions. Oh, also not to be fat. Like also like that I was beaten with that my whole entire life. Not to be fat, because I was previously plus size, and then I had weight loss surgery. I lost a lot of weight, but I've suffered with eating disorders my whole entire life, and a lot of it is because I was subjected to that shaming, that body shaming,
100%,
literally from being a child.
It's funny you say that, because I was a chubby baby. I've always been a bigger girl, and now with PCOS, it just makes it even. It's a mental fight that I have every single day, and whoever follows, you know, a lot of the girls that follow me on TikTok, I share everything I do for my PCOS, because I know it's not my fault, but it's taken me, I'm 30, it's taken me so long to get to this point where I'm like, it's not my fault. It's not because I'm just eating so much junk food every day and day in and day out, because I don't. But from the age that I could understand language, I've always been called fat. Just fat to the face, fat to my face. No one's gonna marry you. You're big. You've got a beautiful face, but you're fat. And it's you know, and it validates your trauma, because a lot of people will say, yeah, but you're not healthy. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but that. But it's not about being. It's not about you not being healthy. It's about, I've got a medical condition. It is genetic. my generations, it's at the fault of the generations past that have, and it's not even their fault, but it's at the stress that my ancestors had and that their bodies couldn't cope. So PCOS, that's where PCOS was triggered, and then it trickled down. And when I got stressed at uni, I got so stressed at uni because I was the oldest daughter. I was trying to do everything, trying to look after everyone, trying to educate everyone and educate my own self. And then I was also living from home. Out of vengeance, I did a 4-year course instead of a 3-year course. And then I went to Austria.
You see those micro rebellious like things that we...
I was like, I am going.
Well, my biggest act of rebellion was going to uni.
Yeah.
It was my only way out of my house. It was the only way out of getting out from, you know, the control that I perpetrate of domestic abuse. Like, it was the only way for me to get out of the family home and to create some kind of freedom for myself.
Exactly.
It was my only way out. And I think everything that you're saying, I'm just thinking about, you know, the PCOS and how having that extra stress of being the eldest girl affects you chronically.
It does affect
whether
you
it's mental health or physical health. These are the things that are really negated in our culture. Like, women suffer from so many different chronic illnesses in our culture.
100%.
And you wonder why.
Exactly.
How can you not, when you're suffering from so much stress? And you have these like impossible standards put on you as a woman. And we were talking about it last night on TikTok Live, and I was saying that sometimes, and I think this is the reality for most of the time, that men have one thing they need to be in our culture: working and providing. Women have a list as long as their arm to meet this impossible standard before they're even seen worthy of anything, let alone marriage.
Exactly.
And I know we're talking a lot about marriage, but this is really a big issue in our culture, because we're only deemed for one thing and one thing only: marriage, or two things, marriage and kids. And I'm here to show women in our culture that that's not it at all.
Exactly.
That's not it at all.
Exactly.
Like, for me, I was beaten down by these impossible standards my whole entire life. Like, when you sit down to dinner and you're a kid and you're eating, and your parent, who's supposed to keep you safe, who's one of your primary caregivers, who's supposed to show you unconditional love, you sit down to eat and they say, "Sider, sider." How can you not then develop eating disorders from that? How can you then not carry that through into your life when you know that you're not loved the way that you should be loved as or cared for as a child? And these are all really serious and relevant issues that affect the women in our culture.
100%.
And we carry that through our whole entire life. So we get to the age of 30 and you're like, I'm tired. I don't want kids. I'm tired.
Exactly.
I'm exhausted. And for me, it wasn't until the age of 30, when I left my ex-husband, that I started realizing this isn't who I am. I don't even like men. Like, I'm gay. What am I doing? Like, I finally was living in a house that I owned with my daughter, and I was like, you have the complete freedom to be who you want to be now.
Exactly. And set a good example for your daughter.
And be safe.
Yeah.
Like, have that safety, because I wasn't happy. There was nothing in my life up until the age of 30 made me happy.
Yeah.
And when I started really exploring my sexuality and started dating women, I realized, I was like, yeah, I'm gay. I've always been gay, but I was just too terrified to explore that. And I've never looked back. Like, I am the happiest I have ever been in my whole entire life. And that's not because I'm a lesbian.
Yeah.
That's because I live in my truth.
Yeah.
That's because I'm free and I have that freedom to be who I want to be. And I created that safe space for myself. But even then, like, when I was exploring my sexuality, I didn't really have anyone to turn to, like other gay Albanian women. There's only like one or two on TikTok, right? And they're all the way in America.
Yeah.
There was no one for me to turn to. There was no community. Like, there was no safe spaces. And so even that I explored kind of on my own. Like, it's been a very lonely experience, like, my life up until now. And I refuse to allow that to continue. Like, if my story and my life has done anything, let it be a lesson. Let it be something that we do to show other women that they're not alone, to change 100%. It for other women, because it's not okay to be going through these things on your own. Like, it's completely okay to be different, and it's completely okay to have your own identity. Yeah. But it's not okay to do it alone. Like, there are other women who are just like you out there. And even with that, like, the only thing about me isn't that I'm gay. It's not that I'm Kosovan. It's not that I'm on Instagram, like doing social media or like that I do domestic abuse work.
Yeah.
There's so many different layers to who we are.
Yeah.
So many different. So when you say we fought for our freedom, believe me, we fought for our freedom.
Yeah, and we still do. And I said to Lejla, I said to you, we are in a fight or flight situation. From the moment I get up to the moment I go to sleep, I am in a fight or flight situation. And obviously we've got opposite experiences almost, because I've been with my husband for 10 years. 10 years this August. He is Kosovan. He was raised in Kosovo. He is an Albanian man. But he is the one that's taught me so much emotional intelligence. He is the one that I can be that, small, childlike Leo. That sounds really like perverted, but it isn't.
It's just you're able to bring out your inner child.
I can be my inner child around him, and I can experience and not feel scared of expressing my opinions, not feeling scared of the fact that, I'm now married, I now have a ticking time bomb of having kids, and now I can't travel, I can't go here with my friends. If there's business opportunities, I can't go there. It's not like that at all. And, you think that Albanian men, there's no good Albanian men.
I think there's no good men in general.
And
I will die on that hill.
My mission is to show, not just to show you, but to show a lot of women that they do exist. And, I was set up with my husband through my uncle, which passed away 4 years ago in COVID. And I have so much gratitude to my uncle for the fact that he introduced my husband to me. But I also have so much grace for myself, because I met my husband on Monday and I got engaged on Friday. I was like, I'm not fucking around.
We don't fuck about, do we?
No, I don't. Well, you know
even
what?
me, even though I'm not like, I don't date men, I'm very much like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really
what
fast.
What are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
come on, let's go.
Really, really fast. And for me, it was because I met him on Monday. My dad met him, found out that, he's the son of someone that helped us get out of Kosovo back in the day. And so my dad really liked the family. And to be fair, my husband's family are so nice and amazing. And that's because there are boundaries that my husband has set from the get-go. And there are also boundaries that I set myself to him and, put my expectations. And 10 years on, those expectations and those boundaries are still up. Yeah. They are still like, I am your wife and I am not. So I have this thing. I hate the word Nusa. I hate it with a passion, because, and I explain this to whoever, because a lot of women ask me, why do you hate it? Like, it's such a beautiful thing. It's not when you know what women have gone through and they've been called Nusa I am, Nusa Filonit, Nusa Soina, blah, blah, blah. You know that a Nusa goes through so much bullshit in this life, in our community, that I choose not to use the word at all. I will not be associated with the word. I am my husband's wife, and then that's it. I do not belong to anyone else. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't belong to him either. Yeah. I am his partner, just like you are your partner.
There you go. You don't belong to anybody.
No, I don't.
You are your own
person. Exactly. Because I'm not scared. I'm not scared if, God forbid, something happened between us and we had to part our ways. I'm not scared of the life afterwards, because I'm fully independent. I know my own self. I know that I can do something and move on with my life, but obviously, I'm married to him. I don't think that I will ever break up with him. But if ever we had to, we would part our ways and I would not shed a tear.
And that's where people would listen to that and be like, that's why we every time we're talking about what we're going to call it, Trime felt like it fit. But Trime is not the only, I guess, it's the name for our platforms, but we also have very different branches of this as well. We've got Biat, Motrat and Aya. Yeah. And just sticking on the point that you were saying, that Nusa filane, the chica filane. Do you know what I mean? It's always Aya, constantly removing our identity and removing who we are
Yeah.
and removing our personalities and taking our voices away.
Exactly.
And that's why it felt like we had so many different layers to start breaking down, so many different things to talk about. And Aya was something that I'm really passionate about, because we have names, you know.
Yeah.
We have personalities, we
Yeah.
have dreams, we have goals, we have wishes. Like we are not just someone's daughter, just
No.
someone's wife. Like
No.
we are our own people, and we deserve, at the bare minimum, we deserve to have those identities as our own.
Exactly. I think another thing that I'd like to add is it's interesting for me because whenever I see someone like Mylinda Kilmende, the judo athlete, she is such an inspiration. But I remember seeing an interview and they were talking about marriage, and it's like, I'm so sorry, but why do you care? Like, she has done something that should make us as a community so proud of her, for the fact that she's gone ahead, trained in Kosovo, qualified in Kosovo, gone to the Olympics, won medals. It is amazing that she's done all of that. And the same goes for our president. I remember a lot of...
We have a female president, just in case, like anyone...
Yes, we do.
Anyone who's not Kosovan, like, we have a female president back home.
Her name is Vjolsa Osmani.
Imagine one day if we get her on the podcast.
Oh my God, don't, because you're going to make me... I've got goosebumps.
Well, we've already put it out there, so you never know.
Like with Vjolsa Osmani, I have always seen her so amazing. She's educated in America, I think in Yale or Harvard, I'm not too sure. She knows English so well. She's so smart, so intelligent, and she can really hold a good conversation with any politician. And it's because I follow her and I watch what she does. Because it's a woman, I pay attention.
Yeah.
If it's a man, I don't really care.
Switch off immediately.
Because it's a man, and it's a boring, it's just a cycle of just boringness. And I remember so many articles coming out of like, she's gained weight, she's overweight, and then she lost so much weight, and then, oh, look at her, she's lost so much weight. And it's sad to see, because that's not her value. Her value is what she's doing for the country.
Absolutely.
And what how she's connecting us to Europe and us to
being a leader.
Being a leader. That is the value, and that's something that I recognize and I appreciate so much more. And it's also something that I've had to learn, because as a female, when you are in that toxic environment where your looks, your weight is always judged, but you're not actually your intelligence. I was always told, oh, you should go to school, but after you finish school, get married and have kids. Yeah. But why am I going to school?
Why am I going to school? What am I going to do with it then?
Why am I getting into debt for?
Yeah, what am I going to do with it then?
And, now that I'm, again, 30, I'm at the point where I have to catch myself when I'm expressing toxic traits. When I see someone, a fellow Albanian, and, I have to stop myself from going through this list that my mum and, not just my mum, but every, a lot of households have in our community is she ugly? Is she fat? Is she pretty? What colour hair does she have? Is it curly?
Too tall,
is
too
it straight?
short?
Yeah.
Everything.
And there's even songs about how a Nulser is too tall or a Nulser is too short. Like, I'm so sorry, but it's those kind of songs really piss me off, and they really offend me. Yeah. It's such misogynistic songs, and when you actually listen to the lyrics, and this is why my siblings are always like, you're such a black sheep because you take everything so seriously. And it's not about you taking stuff seriously, but it's about the fact that I will not be put down as a female by anyone. I don't care if it's an artist or not. You are the same exact human as I am. The only difference you have is you're a male and I'm a female, and that's it. So I think it's time that, and this is why we started this is why we started Trime. We want to break that cycle.
Absolutely.
And we realize we're not stupid. We both realize that we still express toxic traits that we have to overcome ourselves.
There's this like meme online, and it says, I support women's rights and wrongs strongly. I do, but I have a complete different view on it from like an intersectional feminist perspective, because I understand how the patriarchy subjects women too misogynistic thinking. And I know that a lot of women in our culture have fallen victim to being very misogynistic and actually enabling perpetration for violence and abuse, whether it's in the home or whether it's like the wider community. I know that women have become perpetrators themselves, and I don't want that to continue. Like, I want women in our culture to understand that that's not okay. Like, it's not okay to have these really violent misogynistic views, because you're really harming other women instead of helping them, instead of keeping them safe. And this isn't about bashing women who have been doing that. This is actually offering them an opportunity to become a bit more aware, to become a bit more educated, whilst also providing those safe spaces for women and girls who desperately need it.
Exactly.
And even when we were doing our research, because obviously we've got a lot planned. This podcast is just the start.
Yeah.
But we were doing research for some of the other work that is going to be coming up with Trime, and we were shocked to find that in the UK, there is no one domestic abuse charity just for Albanian women. There are Albanian charities, but it's not specifically for domestic abuse. I was floored when I saw that. And even, I'm a domestic abuse practitioner. I've been working in this field for 4 years now. I was so shocked. I remember when I was sitting my domestic abuse intervention and prevention qualification, because I'm a qualified IDVA, which is an independent domestic abuse and violence advocate.
Yeah.
So when I was sitting my qualifications, one of my biggest piece of work was so-called honour-based abuse and how it affects different diverse communities. And I did it based around Albanian communities. And when I was doing the research showed that it's 1 in 2 Albanian women who are subjected to domestic abuse, but the rest of Europe is 1 in 4.
Which is so alarming.
Yeah, which means that we are more likely to become victims of domestic abuse,
which is sad,
than the rest of Europe.
Which is sad. And and this is from the research, most women expect it.
Because it's like it seemed like it's just you're married. That's just what happens.
Most women expect it, and to this day, the older generation, they will always pass on jokes to my husband or to me. If you were my wife, I would hang you from the light or whatever. Or if you were my wife, I would not let you eat. And it's just like,
it's horrific.
You're lucky.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not even funny. And what like a dangerous message to put out there if there are any other women and girls in the room to hear that joke.
Exactly.
Say like there's a younger girl who hears that and immediately she's like, imagine that's her uncle or her dad or her granddad, and you think, oh my God, like that's what this man who's supposed to love me and protect me and care for me thinks.
Exactly.
That if I'm like Leonarda, then he's going to hang me from the ceiling.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, and it is not okay to be repeating those violent messages.
No,
it's not okay at all.
It honestly isn't. I always say this to everyone. And I said this to you, Lejla. I am so not even lucky, but me and my husband have worked so hard on our relationship because I kid you not, when we first got married and when he first came to the UK, the toxic traits that I had is, to look back at that when I was 23, when he came here, now to me is just ridiculous. And I feel sorry for that girl. She didn't know how to process any of this information. She didn't know how to compromise for someone else. She didn't know how to express her thoughts or any of that. She had no emotional intelligence. She was so independent that it was always, she had to always think about herself,
survive,
fight, think about others. It was never like someone loves me for who I am and I have to accept it.
That's gonna make me cry.
I know, don't, but it's always,
because that's the things I think me and you really like have bonded over is being loved with conditions is not real love.
No, it isn't. And it's my family will always say I feel sorry for your husband, but it's because they see me very strong-headed. But now I'm even more where I just don't care. Like I've cut people from from my dad's family side. Like I've cut them off. I do not care. I do not want to entertain it because I live my life for myself. It's sad that when someone sees me and my husband, they're always like, oh, you're so lucky, you've got a gem of a man. But it's not about that, because it's about the fact that we, for our own household and for our future kids, we want different. And this is what I always say. I do not let my culture dictate what decisions we make in this household. I only allow my religion. So I am a proud Muslim, you know, and I follow my religion, and I follow it because it gives me more rights as a woman than my culture does. And a lot of people contradict it and say to me, you know, you are a hypocrite, but my house, my rules, I do not care. Culture was created by men. Why should I follow it? I'm not following it. It's as simple as that. Like, if it wasn't made by a woman, I'm not following it.
But that's part of breaking cycles, isn't it? That's part of being a cycle breaker.
Exactly.
Is that you're deciding not to follow the rules.
Exactly.
Just because they're there does not mean you have to live by them.
Exactly.
Especially when they're violent.
Exactly. And in your own
especially when they're
household.
putting women down, like, especially when it creates no safety for women.
Exactly.
But when you are a cycle breaker and you're the first person to do it, and I think that's, again, like, where me and you are so similar. When you are a cycle breaker, there is going to be so much backlash, but it's okay. Like, I'm here. I'll roll with the punches. Like, I don't care.
Exactly. Same.
I was born for it.
Yeah.
I've accepted it now. I've accepted that part of my legacy is having to fight all the time, like, just to be heard. But and I laugh about that, and I can laugh about that now because I know that I fought for this freedom that I have. But I don't want our girls to be fighting for the same freedom, and, like, even that makes me emotional because I think about the cousins that I have. And I don't want them to be going through the same thing. I want them to just be able to be their authentic selves without thinking,
exactly,
come a mood Barbie.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want them to have that constant worry. I just want them to feel safe and loved and just live in their own authenticity. And sometimes if you can't see the change, you have to be the change. Like, someone has to do it first.
Yeah, someone has to do it first.
Yeah,
someone has to break those, oh, shame on you, shame on family, the shame, you know, more kind of this more
kills the women in our community.
Yeah, it does. It just doesn't allow you to be your own self, you know. And this whole space is purely made for women.
Yeah,
you know, we are the oldest sisters. We are the oldest sisters in this space.
Yeah,
we are here to invite any type of woman in the community that needs help. Absolutely. And that needs that shoulder.
Absolutely.
You know,
and the reason why we're sharing these parts of our lives is to show you, like, this isn't just about, oh, only gay Albanian women come forward, or only women who are married to Kosovo men. This is about any woman in the community who is looking for that safe space. You found it now.
Exactly.
You found that sisterhood. Like, that's why a part of our, you know, a part of who we are as well is called Mortrat. Like, you found it. I remember when I was young and I was going through everything when I was pregnant and I didn't have anyone, and I used to think, like,
oh, don't. I know.
That's all I used to think. Like, just someone to talk to, someone to understand me, someone to that be that shoulder to cry on.
You know, when I think back at my teens, I used to be so stressed about making the wrong decision, about saying the wrong thing, and not being able to go to my parents or to anyone or to my siblings or anyone about this or that or what decision I should make. And, you know, that's filtered through to uni times, and then being scared of, you know, the intention that I was getting from men. And it's just, I just really want those women that are in that position now to know that they've got someone to come to, even if...
My name is Lejla Dauti. Welcome to the Trime podcast.
Just an email to Lejla, to Leo or Leonarda. You know, this is how I'm feeling. Yeah. This is my life at the moment. You know, we've done so much research. We've got so much tools and resources. And as we go along with this project, we will have so much to give to you. It's only
going to grow. Yeah. And this project means literally the world to us, because we, as we said, like, this is our legacy. This is things that we want to see, these changes in our lifetime. And without the women in the community, we can't do that. Like, we need you. Like, we need you. Like, we really
it's not propaganda.
Want you. No, it's not propaganda, I swear. Although there'll be loads of men who will find us online and tell us this is propaganda, not to listen to us.
We've already received it on our TikTok lives.
boring.
It's
Honestly,
so
men
boring.
bore me. Like, men are actually so boring. But yeah, like we need you. Like we literally, we want women to come forward, whether it's anonymously, whether you want to be public. No, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be this super traumatizing story. Like it can just be about what your life has been like growing up in the UK.
Exactly.
Like, because we know that Albanian, British is like a completely different culture in itself. And even if there's just parts of your identity that you want to share with us, you can come on the podcast, you can share them anonymously, like however you want to come forward. Like this space is here now, and we're here to protect the community as well. Like I've been doing that for years with the women in my community for domestic abuse, and I'm ready to do it for our Albanian women too.
Exactly. This whole space is to serve you.
Yeah, to serve women, yeah.
It's to serve women, and also just to be that sisterhood that, you know, because there are women like you that are just the only girl in the family. We are there. We are opening this space to be there for you.
Absolutely.
And even if you feel like, because I said this to you, I feel like I haven't gone through the worst experiences to even speak. But it's not about going through the worst experiences. It's about, I am now at that point where I'm independent. I've got a great partner, and I can, you know, I am a living proof that you can be independent. Absolutely. You don't need to follow anyone or anything. You make your own decisions, and you are your own boss as bitch. Like, that's it. Simple as that. I wish I had a mic to just drop.
I can't even think of a better way to end this first episode than what you just said.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Like, and thank you for being my mortar in this, because
because I'm so happy. You know what? We're lucky we didn't cry in this episode.
I know. We were close. We were so close. But yeah, like, and also if you want to come on a podcast, like if you're on TikTok or Instagram and you are an Albanian woman just like us, and you're like, you know what, this is, I really want to meet these women, I really want to be on this platform, like please just jump in our DMs. We are open to all female guests to come on this podcast and just talk with us.
Exactly, because that's what we want. And you know, we will also be on TikTok Live. I will be on there quite a lot. A lot of girls know me on TikTok Live now, and you know, a lot of girls share a lot of stories. We want you. We want you to just, even if you just talking about a misogynistic experience in your household, or if you work in this area, you know,
and also it's about like really empowering the Albanian women in the community as well, is to show that if those success stories, you know, like I'm really keen on sharing them on women who are high profile, really powerful in the community, in their jobs, in their careers, whatever it is that they're achieving in life. Please come forward and share your stories. Like we want other women in our community to see that it is possible.
Because you are going to be the cornerstone, the main,
oh my God, absolutely,
the main diamond in this whole space, because you are a great example of what a woman's potential is. And I'm so glad that fate, God, whoever, universe, has brought me and Lejla together, because I feel like we're at this point in our life where we've achieved so much, not to make our heads big, but we've achieved so much, we fought for so much, and we couldn't have done that without actually seeing other women.
Absolutely.
And, you know, seeing other women in our community, like for yourself, Smane, Malinda Kilmende, the Queen Teuta, like we're going back to Illyria.
Like, we've been badasses like as long as time has gone by.
We've been a boss ass bitch from the beginning.
So join us.
Yes, definitely.
Join us on this journey, on this project. Get involved. Tell us who you are. Come forward. We're also going to have a Trime like platform as well. It's going to be on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Yes. We're going to be streaming this on all kind of podcast streaming sites.
Yes.
So there is going to be that separate community for Trime, as well as our own social media spaces as well.
100%. And me and Lejla are always here.
Yeah.
We don't bite. Not yet, anyways.
Not yet.
Only the men. Only the men.
Oh, I can't even catch you. Yeah.